on Allison Rosen as your new best friend, Rhett Reese.
Maybe no one ever tells you how much dues paying is going to be. I don't know. I just felt very ill-prepared.
Well, it's almost as though you should go to the commencement speech and have the person stand up there and say, "Get ready." It's like the good stuff's behind you. About 5 years of shit headed right at you. Just have fun. Instead of like, it's so exciting, you can really do anything. It's like, no, you can't. You can do menial level shit.
Yeah.
That's what you can do.
Right.
That's what you're gonna do.
Right.
And then some of you are gonna get scared and flee back to school again. Mm-hmm. That's the only safe place. And the rest of you are just gonna have shit laying on your head. That's kind of what they should tell you.
Yeah, because there's no way you're gonna go straight from college to the high-level job that you think you're ready for, which actually you're not ready for, but you're not gonna realize that till many years later.
Yeah, I mean, there's the occasional Mark Zuckerberg. But those are always the vast exceptions to the rule. So generally, you have to just, you don't have to eat a little shit those first few years. That's why it's so hard.
Yeah.
That said, 30's way better.
Yeah.
And 40's better. I mean, 40's whole other crises, start to occur.
Right.
Subscribe to Allison Rosen as your new best friend on iTunes. Or go to AllisonRosen.com. Only from Corolla Digital. Allison's your new best friend. Now, it's time for this week's CarCast with your host, Adam Carolla, and moderator, Matt D'Andrea.
Yeah, get it on. Got to get it on. No choice but to get it on. Mandate. Get it on. Welcome to another CarCast. I'm Adam Carolla. That's the moderator, Matt D'Andrea. Am I right? Good to see you, Matt.
How are you?
Excited that Gale Banks is back in the studio?
It's always a good time when Gale's here.
I love me some Gale Banks.
Oh.
I just do. I love smart meets mechanical meets American. I just love this guy.
Thank you.
And
Thank you.
I respect just the craft. It doesn't matter if it's turbocharging diesel engines for military applications or whatever it is. Just the guys that are craftspeople. I don't care if you're making beer or turbocharging diesels. I just love it when a guy's really good at what he does.
How do we hatch some new ones?
Yeah.
That's the issue.
I honestly don't know. It's funny because I was, where do we get this next round of guys? Because I was sitting around watching TV with my wife the other day, and I was watching some documentary show on MTV, and every dude now is just 30, super skinny, has a couple of yarn tie-on bracelets, can't tell if he's into dudes or chicks. He wouldn't want to take a stand.
You can't tell, and he can't tell.
He can't tell.
He has no idea.
And they're all kind of wispy, and they're way too nice, and they talk in tones that you can only whales can hear, and they don't have any vices, and they're into, they're doing 10K walks for breast cancer every other weekend.
Yeah. What happened to the gym, by the way?
Yeah, I went to gym. I went to dude.
Yeah.
I went to guys in his garage wrenching. Yeah. Remember, you just see a guy and you just see all that grease on his cuticles, or he's missing a pinky or something like that.
Yeah.
And so I want that guy. Now all these guys they're not fat. They're not even skinny. They're just kind of wafy. They're sort of like chicks, and they wear these T-shirts that are too tight, 2 earrings, but they have beards. I don't know who they are, and there's one weird tattoo that is some sort of tribal symbolism for strength or unity or something.
That's not what it really means, by the way.
And they're
somebody in Venice told them that. And,
they all have laptops that are with some kind of Che Guevara sticker or something on it, and I don't know what they're doing. And who's going to build the diesel engines of the future?
The guys in flyover country. That's who.
Right. Those are the guys that are going to do the
America
building.
is alive and well in the center.
Right.
So, at least the one we picture.
Sure.
The one we picture where there's guys with skills who can create new stuff.
Yeah, guys we meet from lunch.
Well, I'll give you an example. It's a never-ending cry for if you turn on the television, it's a lot of "Hi, I'm Sheryl Crow. Music is so important to kids," and they always throw out these bullshit statistics. And it turns out Asian people who play the cello learn math at a higher level than. Yeah, okay, we get it. If somebody spends 4 hours a day working on the cello, they're probably going to have a little more patience for math math as well. But music doesn't mean shit to anybody. I don't give a fuck if my 2-year-old or 9-year-old is into music, and I don't think it's going to make them smarter, but I would like them to know how to turn a wrench. And all they do is they talk about music program. What about shop class?
Yeah.
That's leaving too. How about we get a new generation of guys who know how to work a mill or lathe or put 2 pieces of wood together?
It's like NBA. How many basketball players do we have? How many musicians do we have?
Right.
And how many spots are there to make money doing that?
Right.
There's a lot of spots to make change doing it.
Right.
But as far as what we're looking for, and that is the rebuilding of the industrial capability of our country.
Right.
I mean, that's no small feat, but we're looking for guys who know how to turn a wrench.
Absolutely.
You know,
Absolutely.
and more importantly, we need guys who understand how to design what it is you're wrenching on.
Right.
Whether it be an engine or an aircraft or whatever the hell you.
Right. Yeah. Well, there's always Germany. Although I will say I was just in the Bay Area, and I reached out to my friend Mike Rowe, who's Dirty Jobs Mike Rowe, Ford Mike Rowe, Lee Jeans Mike Rowe.
Yeah, that guy makes a career out of wearing a sweater.
He's my nemesis. I like the guy, but every time I see him on a commercial, I go, that should have been me. I could have worn those damn jeans. Why can't I be the spokesperson for Craftsman?
You know, if you talk about Craftsman, the Peace Brothers, who just won the Riddler Award with the Thunderbird, I don't know if you're aware of that.
No, the Riddler's up. That's in the Bay Area, right?
The Riddler is at the Detroit Auto Run.
Oh, what's the Bay Area one?
It used to be
the Oakland Roadster show.
Now the Grand National Roadster show. That's
how they
moved
moved it.
But
Okay.
the Riddler is the big dog. That's like that's best
that's
picture
the Super.
of the year.
That's the Super Bowl of automobiles and Best Picture, whatever.
This is 2 brothers from Texas. The old man is a dentist.
Mm-hmm.
Built him a shop on the back of his property, and I've met both of them. And Jonathan, who's in the car there in that photograph I just handed you, he's the stylist side of it. But
Is it like a 55 Thunderbird?
It's a 55 T-Bird with one of my twin-turbo gasoline 1150 horse engines.
I want some credit for guessing the year.
Yeah.
Thank you.
But you never saw it.
Wow. Wow, it looks amazing, by the way. And
disappeared.
there's nothing, like I said, there's nothing better than the, almost, again, I love it when it has a sort of marine look to it, like when the turbochargers are sitting up high and it's going right into the plenum.
Exactly.
Nobody wants to see an alternator.
This is a layout. The
compressor.
first time I did this layout was 1968.
Wow.
Yeah.
And this is
So there were 700 horse then. They're 1150 now. It's just a small block Chevy.
wow.
And good parts.
Right.
But the T-Bird is a custom.
Right.
But underneath there is one hell of a hot rod.
Yeah.
So
You said 1100 horsepower.
1150.
1150. Sorry, rounding down. I had it on 87 octane. 1150. I'm
Now,
guessing
this
you're
guy-
running not pump fuel on 11.
Absolutely, you are.
Pump fuel.
Who do you think you're talking to?
I know, but once you get over 1,000, usually you switch to something that's purple
Exactly.
or something.
But what I do here is I got a water methanol overlay.
Uh-huh.
I'm misting water methanol in
Yes.
so that's my anti-detonant.
Meaning,
Provides a liquid cooling.
Yeah.
Yeah, they
Let me-
did this. The Germans did it in World War II in their fighters.
let me talk for. I'll tell the lay people the problem with the boost and the bars is the pre-detonation. So you create too much pressure, and then you get pre-detonation, and that's the pinging you get. It's the death of turbocharging.
Well, it's the death of the piston.
It's the death of the piston, and it's bad for turbocharging. So you actually spray a concoction in there that makes it less flammable.
Yeah, it actually cools down the combustion process, takes the peak off of it.
Uh-huh.
It's the temperature spike that causes the detonation.
Uh-huh.
So we've shaved the temperature spike. Also, the
It's liquid
alcohol.
intercooling.
Right.
It's 50-50 water methanol. The methanol aids the octane.
How big a hopper do you need for something like that? Obviously, this is not a vehicle you'll be towing something cross
it's
country.
just a couple of gallons.
And
That's it. It's easy to find a spot.
how is it activated? Is it constantly, or is it temperature activated?
It's only activated. Yeah, we look at the temperature of the exhaust coming out of the engine. We look at the boost level, the RPM, throttle position, ambient temperature. There's a bunch of stuff we're sensing to drive the motor that pumps the water methanol.
Right.
And then you have some sort of injector, solenoid that taps into
Actually,
maybe
we have constant flow injectors. We just have solenoids that engage them,
And the motor kicks on.
and the motor kicks on. Then I change the speed of the motor to control the flow.
Okay.
Wow.
Yeah.
So a lot of dyno time.
Yeah, a lot of development time in it, but I'm using it on gasoline engines for 40 years, 45 years, but I've been using it on diesels now for about 35 years. And with the new modern engine controls, I can really amp the mileage without reducing the emissions with this stuff.
Well, Gale.
We just discovered that like 4 or 5 months ago.
By the way, Gale was in his fine company was good enough to breathe on my truck, my dually, my 350 dually, and I think Les put about 6,000 miles on it right after you guys.
almost
got
10 now, I think.
Good.
Oh, 10
good.
now, and it works
We'll
like a
take
charm.
a look at that at some point, but
Yeah.
I do want to ask about the water methanol injection.
Yeah.
Does it change the life of the motor? Does the water methanol injection corrode or do anything to the intake track and the pistons, or no?
No. If it was excessive, if it wasn't the proper amount, yeah, I can see issues with it. But the nozzle design, we also created a new nozzle, so it atomizes and then goes to vapor real quick, which cools the intake charge. That helps you on detonation as well.
If you didn't run this mixture, what kind of on pump fuel? What kind of horsepower?
About 840
So
on 91 octane.
tacked on 310.
Yeah,
horsepower.
it's a serious amount of additional power we can make.
And now, how practical then is this? Like when you talk about the military applications you're doing, now you're in the middle of the desert. It's a different environment, and also you need to go long distances.
Those
and
are
things
all
like that.
those are all diesels,
Right.
and our deal is twofold.
I'm looking at a picture of a lot of it.
For the
Yes.
spec ops guys, we've been working on up armored Humvees, which are awfully slow.
Because they're heavy.
Well, they went from like 7,800 pounds to 14.5, and the Marines.
Wow.
Yeah, 190
That's a lot.
horsepower engine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a 6.5 liter turbocharged diesel, ex-GM, now AM General engine.
It's about as fast as a
I
go-kart at that point.
worked on the
Oh
prototypes.
my God.
Listen, let me put it in perspective. I worked on the prototypes of that engine in the late 70s.
Wow.
That's how old this mother is.
So it's 190 horsepower. Now, to be fair to people, it has torque. It had torque. I mean, it has a little more torque than a Mini Cooper.
Yeah.
I mean, you don't go my Mini Cooper Clubman supercharged or turbocharged has 187 horsepower. So what are you talking about? No, it's got a lot more torque.
It has more torque, but it's still, as diesels go, it's kind of anemic. It's a very old combustion chamber design or pre-chamber design done by Ricardo in England, probably in the early 70s or late 60s.
How many liters is it?
6.5.
And it's a straight 6?
It's a V8.
V8. And
So
I'd like to get a bunch of F1 engine builders and go, these guys build a 6.5 liter motor. What's it have, like 2,000 horsepower? No, a little lower than that.
It's
190.
in the same
Not a good
time
day.
frame, if you go
Sea
back,
level.
into the 80s, BMW had a 4-cylinder, 1.5 liter engine, Formula One,
Right.
turbo, that made 1,100 horsepower qualifying. That's 90 cubic inches nominally.
Right.
1.5 liters and 1,100 horsepower. Now, it was on a short leash. You couldn't do that all day.
And the
But-
that horsepower was at 1,150 RPM.
That's at the same time this
Or
diesel,
11,000, sorry.
came
Yeah.
into the market in 82 Chevy pickups, and
Right.
then
That's a
it
chasm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the bottom line is, when they go to altitude with these Humvees, up armored, or when they just want to get the hell out of Dodge, one of the tests we do for the armed services is a 0 to 50 meters. So we did a drag race with two of our prototypes. Yeah, I think there's a photo of it.
Here's the photo of it.
Yeah.
This, by the way, is, and I was at Gale's place when he was developing these kits maybe a year ago when we were talking about it.
Yeah.
This is the lumber yard that he owns outside of his place where he drag races Humvees.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
Well, let's put this into perspective. You got a 7,000-pound vehicle that has 190 horsepower antiquated motor in it, and now you've doubled the weight of the vehicle essentially because you're putting armor on it, which is good, but you have the same power plant. Now, 14,000 pounds.
This is
with that motor.
112, maybe 113 horsepower at the ground.
Right, to the rear wheels.
No, it's all-wheel drive.
Oh, I mean, to the wheels.
But there's so much gearbox going on.
Yeah.
It's getting so much of the power.
I mean, I'm just doing a math of, 110 horsepower to the wheels and 1,400 pounds before you breathe on it. And 0 to 60, it's got to be in the 20s, right?
No, it's in the 40s. It's like 46 seconds.
If you didn't need the bullet protection, you could run faster. You could get out and run
remember, man, we're talking about sea level. Take it to 14,000 feet in Afghanistan.
Wow.
Then it's like 70 horsepower to the tire?
If that. And blowing black smoke because it's got this antique turbo on it.
Oh, all right.
So we just strip the engine.
Right.
We take off the fuel injection pump, we pull out the injectors, we take off all the turbocharging, and we make that engine ours. We do a Sidewinder turbo upgrade for the thing. I threw in an exhaust brake in the exhaust casting because they still have the stock brakes too.
Right.
Yeah. And
you got a problem getting it going. You got a problem stopping it.
Yeah. 14,000 pounds.
It's horrific. So
how does the gas brake work? I know big trucks used it for a long time, and now smaller trucks use it. But how does it work?
It's an elbow on the outlet of the turbocharger with a butterfly valve in it.
Mm-hmm.
You can see the photo here. You listening can't see it, but there's a device with a cylinder on the side. It's black, and you can see the butterfly in one of the openings. Basically, what we do when you arm that thing, whenever he drops off the throttle, it closes that butterfly. And that butterfly builds back pressure around 45 to 50 psi. So you turn your engine into a giant air compressor.
Right.
And the energy to turn that air compressor is coming from the wheels.
Right.
So net effect is it slows the thing down.
Yeah. Right. Oh, right.
It creates engine braking.
So you can go a 6, 7, 8% downgrade, kick that thing on, and maintain speed.
Right.
You're not even touching the foot brakes.
Right.
We'll post all these photos that we're talking about up on.
So the bottom line is, what we do to really make these things rock and roll is we get about another 70 horsepower to the ground, which is a huge change. And then, because you only had like 112.
Yeah, percentage-wise.
Percentage-wise, it's huge. We stay within the design of the transfer cases and stuff like that, but we change the transmission from a turbo hydro 4-speed to an Allison 6-speed, which gives me deeper low gear, closer gear sets, so the thing keeps the engine in the sweet spot.
Right.
It gives me the ability, when I turn on my brake, I send a signal to the Allison, and it goes into a braking mode. It downshifts, it locks the torque converter, everything to feed that power back into the engine and cause the braking effect to happen.
How many vehicles are you looking to retrofit a year approximately? Can it be, I guess it can't be done in the field, but is there any thought about the mountain coming to Mohammed, like sending a bunch of trained guys out to the field?
I can't tell you what part of the Navy, but the Navy has already had people at our place to be trained. There's another group coming out.
So they can install it out in the field or maintain it.
We're teaching the Navy how to install it and how to maintain it in the field.
Right.
Because the Seabees go out when the vehicles go out. And they're there with the operators. They're there first, actually, and probably last.
Right.
And not at the same level of jeopardy, say, that a SEAL would have, but it's pretty high jeopardy. The Seabees they're gearheads that get shot at and shoot back.
I know.
you
I got their flag somewhere that came and visited
I feel
me.
like half the shit Gale Banks tells me, he's gonna kill me afterwards. I'm not supposed to know. Like
Well,
I can't. I'm not supposed to know
The
this.
Seabees, even though I think there was a John Wayne movie called
Absolutely.
The Fighting Seabees.
Absolutely.
I don't know if it's Construction Battalion or what the CB
that's
is.
what it stands for.
But the people they don't get their due. They're right up. Somewhere there's a bar filled with guys from the World War II ghosts, from the Merchant Marines and the Seabees going, we had the most dangerous gig on the planet and we got no pussy. Because nobody knew how dangerous it was to be a Merchant Marine.
Are you
or
guys
a CB.
listening out there? all you Seabees that are tuned in, listen to this.
Yeah, and Merchant Marines too during wartime have multiple jobs, but they don't have cool, fighter pilot. Saying you're in the Navy, you're in the Army, whatever. You're a Marine. That's a cool gig. But people don't realize CB, all the danger, none of the cachet.
Yeah.
And the same with the Merchant Marine guys.
They built airports in the islands.
Yeah.
When we landed on the islands, the guys were shooting at them while they're building the airports. It's like, wow, that's not. So
They need groupies.
Yeah, yeah. CBs need groupies. there are some guys who are going to really laugh at this. This riff is really going to get some guys. You guys know who you are too.
The Fighting CBs.
Yeah.
Okay, well now we're watching.
Watching John Wayne.
Oh yeah, there it is. There it is.
But they spell it CBs.
S.
Like the C and then the B.
SEABEES, and the logo is a flying bumblebee with a Thompson machine gun and a hammer and a few other things.
Yeah, because they got to work too. They can't just shoot.
And this movie we're watching right now, you can see it in the CB Museum at Port Hueneme.
Oh, really?
Yeah, there's a new CB museum, and you can get into the museum without going on the base.
Well,
It's got public access.
Lynette, my wife, if you're listening, forget about Legoland this year. The kids, we're going to the CB Museum. My twins are going to be over the moon.
They're going to love this.
They're going to love that.
You can get one of the fake tattoos on their arm with the bee and the gun.
I got the flag somewhere. I forget where it is. So, all right. So you do the. I want to know about the drag race, the 50 meter.
The 50 meter is it's the get the hell out of Dodge test.
Right.
In other words, there's a lot of urban fighting in what we've been doing the past few years. Afghanistan, Iraq. We're in a few countries now in Africa, and those countries will be revealed in the news pretty soon. There's a lot of terrorist training going on in African nations now, so that's going to be probably the new action areas. But you're in an urban situation. Somebody's focusing fire on you. You want to get around the corner.
Right. You don't need a quarter mile.
You want to be out of visual range, and it's just around the corner. How quick can you do it?
Right.
So part of what we do is we make the turbo responds way quicker.
Right.
My fuel injection pump, which is beefed up to run on JP8 jet fuel, which in theater, many times you've got to run that stuff. They only want one fuel. They don't want a bunch of different logistic streams. So
interesting.
It's just a matter of convenience.
I don't know anything about cars. I have no idea what they're talking about.
I grade diesel for the most part, or you're going to.
It's like kerosene. It's more like kerosene.
But listen, if you know when you go to the airport and you're flying Eagle airline and you're just going like on a short hopper and you walk out in the tarmac and it smells like diesel everywhere. It smells like a bus, and you're like, "What is this diesel?" Because everyone thinks jet fuel, like it's a high octane, high grade, whatever. It's diesel fuel. So. I mean, I guess it's better diesel fuel, essentially.
Yeah, the issues, and I think.
But they want to go. Look, we want one tanker, one thing. We don't want a fuel for everything that moves here because that's way too complicated.
Exactly, that's it. Logistics stream, just one fuel, easier to get there for everybody. The Banks branded engines that we sell for military use. We've got a V6 as well as a V8, and a four-cylinder coming. Those are both out of Italy. The Motori engines is our basis, and then we massage them.
Why out of Italy? What were they in? What are they in?
Our V6, which is the Gale Banks 630T, we call it. It's a cylinder 3-liter turbo.
Mm-hmm.
That comes out of Centro, Italy.
Mm-hmm.
It will be in the Jeep Grand Cherokee next year, 50 state legal,
Mm-hmm.
at about 240 horsepower. I don't want to steal Chrysler's thunder here, but it's a big deal to them.
Mm-hmm.
And we're going to see probably, I don't know, my personal estimate, probably they'll build 20,000 a year.
And
I
it's
want
going to be a high-performance diesel version of
Well, it's 240 horsepower and 400 and some pound-feet of torque. That thing marches.
Right.
And we're testing with an 8-speed ZF gearbox.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And Magna transfer cases. The whole deal is, I've driven a Chrysler 300 with this diesel in it.
Mm-hmm.
They sell them now with a 5-speed. It's branded Lancia
Mm-hmm.
in Italy,
Right.
in Europe. Actually, I think it rivals or is slightly better looking than the Chrysler itself.
Mm-hmm.
It's got its own Lancia nose and tail.
Right.
Ralph Gill, if you're listening to this, I apologize. Hopefully you styled that nose and tail too, Ralph.
So the car, but good mileage is what we're talking about here, too,
Oh,
right?
boy, are we talking about mileage. And what's happening is the government mandates are pushing the mileage numbers up for fleet fuel economy.
Cafe,
Yeah. And you know, my whole job, it's always been engine efficiency. Well, that's mileage, and it's also power. When you want one, you get it. When you want the other, you get it, if you've done your job right. So I look at this, and it's if they build all the Hemi Ram pickups that they want to build, or Hemi SRT 8
Yeah, any
Grand
performance
Cherokees,
cars,
which
yeah.
are
Right.
badass.
Yeah.
Sure.
You got to balance that with something that gets fuel economy.
Right, because it's the collection. Meaning,
fleet,
yeah,
basically, for that
yeah,
brand.
right.
But
If
there's
the cafe, just to get everyone straight, if they go, we need you to average 30 miles to the gallon. Well, if you build a bunch of cars that get 10 miles to the gallon, then you better build some that get 50.
exactly.
Right.
Because
Yeah,
it has
so you
to be,
can meet in the
and
middle.
you're going to have to
somewhere.
build a bunch of them that get 50.
Yeah,
Right.
for every
I'm
F-150 you sell, you got to sell a half a dozen Ford Fiestas.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah. So the bottom line is the feel of that thing with the 8-speed, and I don't know if the Grand Cherokee will have the 8-speed on, but I think if it doesn't, it'll evolve to it soon.
Mm-hmm.
We're also going to have a Chrysler 300 with this engine in it, I think, at some
Right.
point out there. And I don't know. I've been waiting for somebody to dieselize a half-ton pickup.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe down the road we'll see a Ram pickup with this.
So,
engine.
in the
So-
these Chrysler 300s and stuff, what kind of mileage are you looking to get?
Well, the number is 40 or better.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's
Now, it
a lot.
depends on the aero of the car
Sure.
and whether you're driving in the city or in the
Yeah.
country. But
Let's face it,
hybrids
the
fall on
Chrysler
their
300
you-
isn't exactly what
the
yeah.
minute you get away from the coast and you get into flyover country, people drive distances.
Right.
Just going to the store might be 60 miles. Depends on where you're at. But the bottom line is, this is where the hybrids are toast.
Right.
Yeah.
Highway fuel economy with a hybrid, no.
Yeah. No,
They're
it's-
good in the city. They're wonderful in the city.
That's why it was always
Diesels own the highway.
always confusing when they go. It gets 51 in the city and 38 on the. And you're
Yeah,
like,
yeah, yeah.
what? I you're so used to it going up 20%.
You know what the latest cheat is?
Hmm.
That rather than say them independently, they tell you a combined number.
Yeah.
So
You
the
know.
it's just
So-
counterintuitive for anyone who's been around cars as long as we've had to have that number get lower on the highway. But I want to ask Gale about diesel and a couple of layman questions and then some more interesting ones. And